And of course, it's 12:02 on a Saturday, August 22nd. You're joining us on the Sports Zone. We have a very special guest today. As you can see, Chris Strickland is not with us today, but very proud to introduce Billy Harrison. Billy Harrison, a local, you want to call yourself legend maybe around here?
I mean, I wouldn't go that far to call myself a legend.
Oh, all right, we're going to tell you. Billy Harrison, great local football player, came through Catholic High School, then to Tulane, and then off he went to the ranks of pro football in the Arena Leagues, and had a stint with the Jacksonville Sharks and the Wichita Fall Nighthawks. And Billy, we sure appreciate you joining us in studio today.
Well, I appreciate being here, man.
We want to get right into it. New this week, we got some new sponsors we want to thank. Pond Plus at 129 North New Warrington Road, Pensacola, Florida. Guys, if you need a bond for some money, you got anything of value, take it to those folks. They will write you a pawn on it. Great guys. Go see Matt and his staff over there. He will take care of you. Also, Trade and Save, 5000 Mobile Highway. Been serving gamers since 2003. They trade games, sell games, you name it. They've got it. Xbox 360, the Xbox One, PlayStation 4. They carry it all. They can also repair your console units. You break it, take it to them, and they can fix it. Don't fear the ring of death anymore because they can take care of it. Myrtle Grove United Methodist Men. You want to talk about a group of men in our community that does a lot for the community. Myrtle Grove Methodist Men on board as one of our sponsors, and we sure appreciate it. Anyhow, we're going to talk with Billy today and talk to him a lot about his career at Catholic, and then as he moved on into Tulane and then into the pros. And Billy, why don't you start with what makes a good student athlete?
I would say balance will make a good student athlete, whether you're in high school or you're in the college ranks, because obviously, you have two words, student and athlete. And also you could add on your own, personal life as a young man or a young lady or whatever. You have to be able to balance school, training for the sport, and all the pressures that come with that, along with all the pressures that come with being, a young man or a young lady coming up in this world. So balance would be the best word I could describe. That would describe the best way to handle all those things.
No, and I mean, obviously we all know the importance of, you have to keep a certain GPA to play.
Correct.
And things like that. But in high school, how important is it in high school to start building those that foundation to a better academic career versus so much that football career or that baseball career or basketball career? In your case, how important was the academic aspect of high school for you and your family?
Well, my father, growing up, man, I remember watching him go to work, then come home from work, and without missing a beat, he'd eat dinner or whatever, and then he'd have to go to class, to try to get his own degree to provide a better life for us, And I would see him every day. He would go in there, or he would come home from work late. He would go to class. And after class, I, come in. He'd be in the kitchen, at the kitchen table, man, studying, reading through these books, this, that, and the other, man. And it really taught me a very valuable lesson, about hard work and, what it takes with the work ethic that it takes to, provide a good life. You know, in terms of when I was in high school, man, really, honestly, when I was coming up, period, I really struggled in high school. I was labeled as ADHD, this, that, and the other. Um, and, I kind of struggled in school. I was kind of, one of those kids that just didn't really get into school. It was just wasn't appealing to me, But at the time, obviously, I was into other things, and I didn't really understand you know, the full gratitude of, what I'm doing, you know, how it would affect me later on in life.
Right.
When you're a kid, you don't really focus on those things, man. You just are in the now, and you're living in the now.
Right.
But real quick story. When I was actually in high school, my goal was basically, I knew I wanted to go play college ball and go beyond that. So I knew, right away that I needed to make sure I had good grades and good grades to get into college, period. Because,
Right.
You don't just play and be a great all-star player and this, that, and the other and get accepted into college. It doesn't work that way. You have to be eligible, of course. But actually, a real hard lesson I had to learn. When I was in high school, I was playing at a very high level. I was working my butt off trying to make sure I got the right grades to be eligible to go to college,
Right.
so on and so forth. And I had by the end of my junior year, I had a lot of big powerhouses coming after me. We're talking SEC teams, Florida, Georgia Tech, LSU, so on and so forth. Okay. Now, I had a lot of college recruiters coming to the school and, talking to me, calling my house day and night, this, that, and the other. Okay. So in my mindset, I got it made. I just need to keep working hard on the field, keep my grades up, this, that, and the other. Okay. Which I did a pretty good job of. Okay. But I ended up going and taking my ACT test. And I wasn't very prepared for it. I was just like, okay, I kind of winged it or whatever. And needless to say, I didn't come out with a very good
Favorable
score.
outcome, did you?
Right. The score wasn't very favorable. And, I didn't realize this at the time, but after that score came out, all these colleges looked at that score, and a lot of powerhouses dropped off.
Right.
A lot of powerhouses dropped off. They stopped calling me. I stopped getting calls from a lot of these schools. I actually had a recruiter from the University of Florida come up to me before I took the ACT, and he was like, man, we want you, this, that, and the other, so on and so forth. He was all on me. After my ACT, he came up and visited with me and, a couple of other players that were getting recruited or whatever in the area as well as in my school. And I basically got in a conversation with him, and I was like, I'm not sure that I want to come to the University of Florida. I told him that I was having some, I don't know. I just didn't like the University of Florida at that time, and I wanted to go another direction. So I wanted to let him know, I wasn't thinking of going that avenue anymore. And he was very quick to tell me that, oh, well, we're not offering you a scholarship. And I was like, well, hold on, man.
Yeah.
Like
5 minutes ago, we was buddies.
Yeah, you know, and
Right.
it was probably about, you know, a month before that he was, you know, ready.
Taking you to pizza.
Right.
Having dinner with you.
You know, he
Yeah.
was ready to do a lot for me. But, you know, after that score came out, you know, all those a lot of colleges, a lot of these powerhouses fell off, you know. And the reason why was because, you know, say you have two guys of the same talent. Say it's me and, you know, some other guy from Miami that plays my same position, whatever. Say we are, you know, identical across the line with the same height, same weight, same speed. We put up the same type of stats, so on and so forth. But one of us scores, you know, whatever on the ACT and has good grades, and the other one kind of struggles in school and doesn't have such a good score, okay? Well, if you're a college recruiter, which one are you going to pick?
Well, you're going to go for the young man that you think can get through the clearinghouse.
Right.
Because you don't want to waste that scholarship.
Right. And you don't want to have to worry about him trying to, you know, go through school and end up dropping out. You know, I have another story that, you know, we'll probably get into later, I'm sure. When I was in college, man, a lot of guys I came there with
didn't stay.
Did not.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know.
Yeah, it's a shame that a lot of young men do not prepare. They're prepared physically,
right,
but they're not prepared mentally for what that next step is. And even in high school, the jump from, say, JV to varsity, or in these days, a lot of these kids jump from freshman right to varsity.
Yeah.
They're not mentally prepared to fill that role. Because now, when you're a freshman, coaches give you a little more rope.
Mm-hmm.
When you become somebody they depend on every Friday night,
right, the pressure's on.
That rope goes from being 4 feet long to inches.
Right.
Because now they got to check your grades every quarter. They got to check them every semester. Some coaches check them every week to make sure you're not slipping. Right. Then when you do slip, it's the pressure of, I can't believe, son, you're letting me down. You got to get going. You got to get yourself back into this thing. And for a 14, 15, 16-year-old young man, that is enormous pressure to have to deal with. And listen, not taking anything away from our community here, but a lot of these young athletes that we see in this position right now don't have favorable outcomes at home. They're single parents, mom's working, dad's never to be seen. And they have issues that are deeper than football, and football is their savior. It's their grace. It's where they go to release their tension, their you know, and to think that you're going to lose that for something. It adds even more pressure to that young man to perform.
Absolutely.
And, you know, it's I honestly believe we should start preparing our students for the SAT and the ACT and all of these tests when they're sophomores. Start getting them ready for sophomore. Start having them start taking practice exams. Get them ready, because you can be the best athlete in the world. And if you don't believe it, I mean, you know, we had a couple at Escambia. Denike Hallowell was one of them, who played at Escambia 2 years ago, broke all the trench records, setting the world on fire. Couldn't get through the clearinghouse.
Right.
Couldn't even get offers because he messed around his 9th grade year.
Right.
And he got so far behind he couldn't catch up. Yes, he was eligible to play football, but that was it. And I think that kids today need to understand that it goes way beyond just what you do between the lines. It goes way beyond what you do between the hash marks. It goes way beyond what you do in the classroom, especially these days. Because let me tell you something, Billy. We go to like the Senior Bowl every year, and we talk to the NFL scouts, and you know, they give the Wonderlic test.
Correct.
Okay, and people who aren't familiar with the Wonderlic, it's a psych test.
Yep.
It's strictly to see how your brain works.
Right.
It's nothing more than that. It doesn't have arithmetic. It doesn't have English problems. It has questions like, if you could commit murder and get away with it, would you do it? Which would you rather be, a cat or a dog? Which makes you happier, the moon or the sun? It's psychological questions that they ask. And then they go to what I really found interesting. They go to your Facebook page. They go to your Twitter account.
Oh, yeah.
They go to your Instagram account. And then they look at what you post and how you post it. And guys, if you don't believe what goes on the internet stays on the internet forever, I'm telling you, ask some of these guys who don't get drafted because of party pictures they have, or pictures, where they've got 15 cheerleaders wrapped around them and they're drinking beer at 16 years. Everything you do in high school follows you through college and into your future, into pros, or if for some reason football doesn't make it for you, into life.
Right.
But talk a little bit, because you had a great high school career here. I mean, you really did. Then you go off to Tulane. Of all schools, Tulane, not a cupcake school to get into.
Right.
I mean, you're talking about a school that is well known for its attorneys, its doctors, not so much its football team, but it's a true academic school.
Correct.
How did life change for you when you went from being at Catholic high school to driving to New Orleans, heart of the city, and going into Tulane? And we'll get back to that. We got to take a break, and when you come back from the break, we'll talk some more with Billy Harrison.
Pensacola. Are you curious about our coast? Go to visitpensacola.com for the latest information on Pensacola Beach and Perdido Key. Come enjoy 450 years of history. Our unhurried pace soothes your senses with art galleries, world-class museums, festivals, air shows, and great local flavors, all linked by miles of sugar white beaches. So come enjoy Pensacola. Many properties have waived cancellation fees and are offering money-back guarantees. Call or click visitpensacola.com.
Trust of the locals hasn't been easy. I might blend in better with the right dance partner. Maybe not so spicy. Spicier than that, though. Whoa. Popeye's new Red Stick Chicken. All white meat chicken seasoned in a Tabasco pepper marinade and served with Cajun fries, biscuit, and ranch dipping sauce for $3.99. Going native.
And we want to welcome everybody back to the show. I went to hit the button, hit the wrong button. That sometimes happens, Billy. Anyhow, we were talking with Billy Harrison, and we were talking about making the jump from high school into college. And for you, it wasn't just any college you went to. I mean, you chose an elite school, and not so much for football, but elite for academics. And we already know, because we've talked to you, we've heard your high school story, academics not exactly Billy Harrison's bread and butter, but you chose a school that it was going to have to become your bread and butter. And talk about how difficult that was for you to actually come into this and say, this is where I got to put my nose to the grindstone and I can't slip at all, and how difficult that was to do at the collegiate level.
Man.
See, you thought all those days were done, didn't you?
Right.
Now we're dragging up all kinds of memories for you.
Yeah, man. Man, it was next level. That's what it was. I went from high school to college, and everything turned up another level. Man, especially, just in terms of everything, man. Just sports, I mean, playing and the pressure that came with playing, and the pressure of trying to stay eligible to play.
Not easy to do
Absolutely.
in college.
No. It started out very difficult, you know. I mean, and even regardless if you're an athlete, a student athlete or not, you know, going to college, period, and just adjusting to the lifestyle of college, you know, it's the first time you're really on your own. You're not under your parents' wing, you know. You have to make decisions on your own, you know,
Right.
for the first time, you know. And it is all a big adjustment that has to be made. And a lot of freshmen, whether you're playing sports or if you're just a regular student, come in there and they really struggle. A lot of them, you know, there's a lot of freshmen that drop out after their freshman year because they, you know, regardless of how smart they were or whatever, like they just couldn't handle the lifestyle, and they just got caught up in the lifestyle of, you know, whatever's going on, college partying, or, you know, maybe they're having to work in college and trying to whatever, and they just get so wrapped up in outside things that, you know, sometimes they can't handle it.
And Billy, let's remind people, we're not talking about college at UWF.
Right.
We're not talking about college in Iowa. We're not talking about college in Kansas. We're talking about plopping a university in the middle of downtown New Orleans, Louisiana, blocks from the French Quarter, the biggest
Right.
party that never stops.
I'm trying to tell you.
21 years old, legal, making decisions. Friends are going partying. You've got to worry about grades, staying eligible, football. I mean, these are big choices
Correct.
that these young men and women have to make. And the struggle has got to be unbelievable because part of you wants to go and let loose.
Right.
And the other part of you is going, I don't want to let anybody down.
Right.
And that's the struggle. And for you, what balanced you out? What kept you to where you knew the direction you were going to go and you were able to really, Billy, I mean, you have to resist all temptation.
Correct.
And for you, what was that turning point? There had to be a turning point because every freshman battles with the I want to party with the other guys and then reality.
Well, you know, I had a goal set in mind, you know, at the time, and that goal was basically to play college ball and play it at a high level, you know, to the point where I'd have an opportunity to go play on a professional level after that. And I basically had to keep that in focus. You know, that was the focal point. That was the, you know, the goal at the end of the, you know, at the finish line. You know what I'm saying? That
Right.
was what I came there to do. You know. Now, before I got there, though, I was very much. I grew up very conservative. You know, I grew up going to church, this that, and the other. When I was in high school, you know, I didn't do much partying or nothing like that myself. You know, I grew up pretty conservative and, you know, didn't get wrapped up into too much, you know, partying and this, that, and the other when I was in high school. So I was kind of already had the right mindset, and I was on a good track of whatever, you know. And like you said earlier, you know, you have that, you know, my parents knew they couldn't pay 46 grand a year
Right.
for me to go to Tulane University, one of the most prestigious universities in our country. Okay?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, they couldn't do that. Okay? Now, I had this opportunity that came along where I could use my athletic talents to go there and take this opportunity for free. Okay? And this is one of the reasons I went to Tulane. you know, my parents told me, you know, you will never have an opportunity, you know, to go and get this type of education. You know, 46 grand worth a year
Right.
education.
The best education money can buy. Some of it.
And you have an opportunity to get it for free. So, you know, I actually had other powerhouses after me. I had Auburn, I had South Carolina.
See, and let's talk about that. Because you could have gone SEC. You could have gone ACC.
Right.
You chose to go Conference USA. You chose to go to an academic school. Why did you make that choice versus going to an SEC school where you knew you're going to get TV time? You knew you were going to get looks from the NFL. You knew you were going to get, you know, the very best that money can buy as far as equipment and workout and facilities and and coaching and medical care. And I'm not saying it's not offered at a Tulane or a South Alabama or an Arkansas State or Central Florida, but I'm saying the finances are much greater to give that student athlete the best.
Right.
What really swayed you to go to Tulane?
Well, like I said, you know, my parents, you know, even coaches and just, you know, a lot of my older mentors, you know, they came to me and, you know, obviously trying to go from making a decision on what my next step is going to be in life, from going to high school to college. You know, it's a big decision. So, you know, I went to a lot of my elders and, you know, I asked them what they thought, you know, and we put up pros and cons, so on and so forth. And, you know, the education level and the opportunities that would come from that education, you know, it was almost like a no-brainer, you know. So, you know, I had a lot of these people that have been through life and went through the struggles of life that had been there before me.
Right.
You know, and
away.
They you know, they kind of let me know, you know, this is an opportunity, you know, you will never have again, you know, and you may as well get the fullest out of this, you know. And so that's one of the main reasons I chose Tulane, because I had an opportunity to, you know, get a high level education, you know, that would give me other opportunities in life outside of football, after football, you know.
Did you, when you were at Tulane, did your choice of major play into your decision at Tulane, or did you really not really know what your major was until you got there?
Well, originally I wanted to go into criminal justice. My dad works in the criminal justice system, and I had a high level of interest for that, you know. But Tulane did not offer an actual degree in criminal justice. Now, I took criminal justice classes and so on and so forth,
right,
but they didn't offer that degree itself. So I actually got into media arts and sociology, and went from there basically.
So you're at Tulane. You're ready to go, and it's football time.
Right.
Man, how exciting that's got to be for a young man when you strap on the Green Wave helmet, you put the gear on for the first time, and you walk out on a field where everything is elevated 100 times what you're used to.
Right.
What is first day of practice like? Do you even remember first day of practice at Tulane?
I do not. Yeah, that was a minute ago, man. Yeah.
What was it? I mean, just in general, what was it like to be part of that whole scene there in Louisiana and New Orleans. I mean, I'm assuming at that point in time you guys were playing in the Dome still. You didn't have your stadium.
Right. Which I'm a little bit jealous about.
Now they got the nice stadium.
When I leave, after I leave.
Right. What is it like to run out the tunnel in the Dome? Same tunnel as the Saints. Is it a different kind of world when you do that, or do you just look around at how big that place is and go, wow, I can't believe I'm playing in here?
Absolutely. As a freshman, you going from playing on a high school level and a high school atmosphere to going and playing on a big college level. And actually, my first game was against TCU, and it was what was that? A Thursday night game. It was a Thursday night game.
So it was an ESPN
on ESPN.
game.
You know, all the lights were on. And, I had, as a freshman, I actually had a lot of playing time. My first game, I actually ended up starting later on in the season, halfway through the season or whatever. But, that first game, the lights were on, man, and it was like, it was go time.
How important is it to get that first hit out of the way?
Oh, wow. Well, on any level.
It's right?
Yeah, man. It gets all the jitters out pretty much.
Because I know you had to have butterflies coming out of that tunnel a little bit. I mean, everybody has to have a little bit of nervous energy,
You know what?
Billy, don't tell me you didn't have any, Billy. Don't sit here and tell me that.
I'm going to be completely honest with you.
You were scared to death.
I really wasn't.
No?
I wasn't scared, man. Before I even, or once I got on campus, they pretty much let me know, hey, you're going to be fighting for this starting spot.
So you didn't have time to be scared.
I didn't. I really didn't, man. I had to get myself in gear, and I had to be prepared to go out there and do my job, at a high level. So, I mean, like I said, the lights were on, man, and it was a feeling of adrenaline rushing, man. You know what I'm saying?
I do, yeah.
It wasn't fear though. I wasn't scared or nothing like that, man. It was just a rush.
You was ready.
Yeah.
You were prepped. You were ready. You were
Absolutely.
ready for the first contact. You was ready to hit something.
Right.
Something that wasn't wearing a green and white jersey.
Right.
I don't think people realize that. All summer you're hitting one another.
Yeah, man.
You're ready to tear into a TCU, or you're ready to tear into a Mississippi State or Southern Mississippi. I mean, it's there, and you're ready to do it.
Right.
So you're in college. We're getting through college, and injuries begin.
Right.
Now we're really wondering about our body and what we got to do to keep the body functioning. And what was some of the things that because some of your injuries are in parts of the body that don't heal real well for football players. Knees, for example. The knees are really a rough thing to get injured.
Right.
And you spent some time, injured. And how was that for you to overcome that bout to get back to playing ready?
Man. Going through injuries and trying to recover from injuries, especially on a higher level like a college level or, NFL level, professional level, whatever, is a big battle in itself and a big test, actually, of your own manhood, I guess I could say. Because, a lot of guys, they'll get an injury and, they'll try to rehab and come back, this, that, and the other, but they'll come back and get on the, field of play, whether it be, the baseball field or the basketball court or the football field or hockey ring, whatever.
Right.
And, they might have hurt their knee or whatever, and a lot of players will be very hesitant You know, they'll be a step slower, or because they're scared of
Re-injuring.
right. And that is the worst mindset that you could have. You fear in itself is what I like to call the devil.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? But I went through a lot of injuries, man, where especially I had a couple of knee injuries, and I had one in college and I had two playing professionally, and you really have to fight back. You know what I'm saying? Like you have atrophy in your muscles and so on and so forth, and it kind of puts you in a low place. You go from being on top of the world and being unstoppable to you can barely even walk. You're on crutches.
Now, let me ask you this. Would you say in that, how difficult is it to rehab when in the back of your mind you're thinking about your job, your position?
Oh, wow, yeah.
Who's coming after it? Am I going to be healthy enough to get it back when I come back?
Right.
How hard is that? Because anybody who suffered any kind of serious injury knows your focus has to be on rehabbing. It has to be 100% on getting better. How difficult is it to know that your injury can cost you your job or your place or your position, and how much pressure is that for a young man to come back too soon?
Right. And like I said, this is what one of the things that injuries do is it tests your manhood.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And man, the pressure of, and I've been in this situation many a times, the pressure of having someone else on your tail and you go from, like I said earlier, being on top of the world and being at your best and whatever to barely, walking, you being on crutches and this, that, and the other. The pressure to get back will either make you or break you. Okay, you got guys behind you that are ready to take your position, or maybe have already taken your position because you are now injured.
Right.
Okay? So you're behind the 8 ball, and you have to make a decision, right then and there. Hey, I need to get back. Okay? I need to focus my mindset on getting healthy, this, that, and the other. And really, the best way to handle that is one step at a time. Okay? Will Smith said a quote not too long, a couple of years ago. I love this quote, man, because it is the best way to handle any and every situation if you're trying to set goals or whatever. And he said something, it was basically his dad had him and his brother build this brick wall, okay? And they had to lay these bricks down and whatever, so on and so forth. And him and his brother basically said, well, we'll never get this done,
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, they laid a brick down, and their father would tell them, hey, lay these brick down. Just focus on laying each brick down, and laying it down as perfectly as a brick could be laid. Okay? And they did that over time. They just focused on one brick and laying that brick down as perfect as they could, lay it down, focusing on that one brick at a time, one step at a time. And eventually they had a wall. And, his father ended up telling him, don't ever tell me you can't do this, that, or the other. Okay? And that's how, not just with injuries, but with goals or that are being set or whatever, you can't focus too far ahead. Okay? So when you're in those situations where you have injuries and this, that, and the other, or, whatever happens that kind of puts you behind, you can't focus on, I need to hurry up and get back so I can fight this guy for my position back. No, you need to focus on this rehab session today. Okay? One step at a time. Because if you start focusing on the future, that takes your focus off of right now and what you need to do right now to lay that brick down perfectly. Okay? And lay a foundation down perfectly. Okay? And eventually I had to learn to do that. I had to learn, the future is whatever. I can't focus on that right now.
You got to worry about the now.
All I can focus on is right now and giving this workout or this training session or this rehab session or, this rep I'm taking on the field or whatever, or this bench press rep. I have to make this and focus on this one rep to make it the best rep I can make it.
With you saying that, we got to take our next set of breaks. When we come back, Billy, I want to talk about the importance of young men and women today in athletics, in preparing their body for the sport that they're trying to play. And we'll be right back with Billy Harrison right after these commercials.
Come to expect friendly, exceptional service from your friends at David Bowen Sporting Goods. Now, you can also expect lower pricing. Hi, I'm David Bowen, and I'm tired of our customers having to go online or to one of those impersonal national chain stores to save money. Those days are over. Find new, lower pricing on all of the big-ticket items you need at all 4 of our locations. At David Bowen Sporting Goods, we're serious about sports, and now we're serious about low pricing.
I told you that you were thirsty. You were thirsty for something that you couldn't describe. It's like coming into the promise, just a trickle, even a glimmer of moisture, of water in the vast desert. What if I told you that there's a fountain beneath you? Like a river flowing deep and blue and cold. That if you found this, that you could drink like a kid who drinks glass after glass of water from the tap after playing kickball all day in July. What if I told you that others would run with their tin cups and ladles, their pots and buckets, their hopes, fears, regrets, pasts and futures, up to your side, just to catch some of this water? What if I told you that there is more for you? There is more for us. There is more for this desert.
Michelle fight for that white gold. This one for them hood girls, them good girls, straight masterpieces. Stylin', wildin', living it up in the city. Got Chuck's on with Saint Laurent, gotta kiss myself, I'm so pretty. I'm too hot. Got the police and the firemen, I'm too hot. said you hallelujah. Girl said you hallelujah. Girl said
And we're back to the Sports Zone with Billy Harrison, my newfound buddy. I am awfully proud to have met you, and we're gonna have Billy hang around for a while. We're gonna get him to do some stuff with us. So all of our listeners, and during the New Orleans Bowl, I'm gonna get him his credentials so he can give me the tour of Tulane.
Right.
But we want everybody to welcome Billy to our cast of characters, and we are really excited and looking forward to doing some things in the very, very near future with you, Billy. But let's get back to what we were talking about, and let's talk a little bit about the preparation that young athletes should be doing right now to prepare themselves for tomorrow. Greatest thing. As a matter of fact, it's on our shirts. When I owned the minor league team here for a while, the Panhandle Crusaders. I owned them the year we won the championship, and our motto was "Prepare today to win tomorrow." Right. And I love that motto. I think if you go through life preparing now for what tomorrow will bring, you have no choice but to be successful at it.
Of course.
But a lot of young people, especially high school age kids, and maybe towards the end of their Pop Warner days, they start getting into weightlifting. Mm-hmm. And how important is it to not developing bad habits when you're weightlifting? Because it can destroy your body if you're not lifting properly.
Absolutely, man. And I'm very passionate about this specific subject, man, because, I have gone through all kinds of different training, whether it be at the Andrews Institute or at shout out to Sonic Boom in New Orleans. But I've gone through all kinds of different training facilities and this, that, and the other. And, as an adult, knowing the stuff that I know now and looking back when I was in high school training and so on and so forth, I was like, I look at it and I'm like, it's crazy the way that I was training. Like, I was doing everything terribly wrong, and in the process I was really hurting myself, whether it be my joints or whatever, and I see a lot of kids in the gym today, and I work out at spend a lot of time working out at Pensacola Fitness, formerly known as Powerhouse Fitness. But I see a lot of high school kids come in from my alma mater at Catholic, and just from other schools around Pine Forest or PHS or whatever. A lot of high school kids come in there and they try to put in a little extra work, which I respect and I love to see. But a lot of these kids, man, I'll see them doing certain lifts, and it just makes me cringe.
Because you know what could be happening,
right?
And you want to go and say something to them.
Absolutely, and I do. I can't help but, hey, man, listen, don't do this like that. You are hurting yourself. And not only are you hurting yourself, you are not getting the full potential out of this specific lift or this specific workout. You're cutting yourself short by not doing it correctly. Not only are you injuring yourself, but you're not getting the full potential you could get out of it.
Right.
And like I said, man, I'm very passionate about working out in general and doing it the right way, because growing up or being an adult and having played on a professional level and this, that, and the other, I look back and think, man, if I would have been doing these lifts and these workouts efficiently and correctly when I was in high school, man, I couldn't imagine how much better I would be now.
Right. Well, let me ask you this, Billy. How important is it if you're a high school coach, or even, let's look at the big picture. If you're a Pop Warner coach, These are usually moms and dads.
Right.
How important is it for them to seek out coaching camps from legitimate coaches who know what to look for, know what to, because I mean this is the concussion age.
Right.
I mean let's you can't talk about any sport without talking about concussions and the danger with concussions, and of course now mandatory in high school. If you get a concussion, you're out, and you have to go through these series of tests before you're allowed to come back again. The NFL now has a 3 concussion and you're done, rule. And you got guys like Wes Walker, who is a name everybody knows,
Right.
but is very concussion prone. Matter of fact, he wears a special helmet that was developed to prevent concussions. Now, that may prevent it from here, but a lot of concussions come from underneath. When you get that jaw, when you hit under your jaw and it jars everything upward. But how important is it for coaches at all levels to seek coaching camps, get in touch with athletic trainers, get these skilled people to give you advice? And how important is it for a coach to be open-minded enough to say thank you and then utilize it? Because, you have young kids getting serious injuries, and if we had the proper coaching, a lot of that could be prevented, especially neck and head injuries.
Right.
In our sport. And I say our sport because I love playing football. I didn't get to play it at the level you did, but I miss it every day.
Right.
It's my sport. How important is teaching these coaches the proper tackling technique so that they can pass that on? And you know what? How readily available have you seen it in the world? Because, I mean, I'm sure that the teams that you've played on held community-wide coaching clinics and player camps and open tryouts and things such as that.
Right. You know what? It is a must. It is, I reiterate, a must that you are prepared. You have these young men and women, lives in your hand, in their future, and you might be doing things to them now, incorrectly, having them, whether it be during practice, not getting enough fluids in them, or practicing too long and it's tearing their body, breaking their bodies down, and a lot of, not only Pop Warner, but a lot of high school coaches.
Absolutely. Especially in this area.
Yeah.
This area is...
Don't understand how important all that stuff is, man. Like, you cannot overwork your players. You're not going to have the same product on game day,
How important it is for that rest period. I mean, I remember weightlifting and Monday upper body, Tuesday lower body, Wednesday upper body. But how important is it to just take a day and allow your body to heal? Because you are ripping it apart. Right. Every time you push that weight, every time you take the Super Gator test or the Super Crusader test or whatever it was called, that was a massive tear and breakdown on your cells and your body and your muscle. How important is it to say, hey guys, Thursday, go home and rest.
Right.
Ice down, put a good movie on, and rest.
Right. Again, it is a must. If you're trying to be at your best, you're trying to have your players play at their best potential, which, who wouldn't?
Absolutely, yeah. Who doesn't want to win, right?
Want your players or yourself to be at your best potential. It is a must. Rest and recovery time is a must. And you know what? I didn't really come to understand this until I left college and started preparing to play at a professional level. I actually did some training over at the Andrews Institute, and at the time, I think it's called Expos now, but at the time it was called Athletes Performance. And man, I went there and I trained there for a little over a month with one of the trainers. Shout out to Brett Besh. He's actually the head strength and conditioning coach for the Cowboys right now, and he is much appreciated, man. He taught me so much. But you know, when I was over there playing or training at the Andrews Institute, man, they train you, but they also sit you down in the classroom
and educate you.
You know, what does it take to make sure you're hydrated? You know, what do you need to take into your body to make sure you are performing at your maximum performance? So on and so forth. They even broke it down to, okay, man, an everyday thing. If you're going, say, on an airplane or something, you're taking an airplane trip, you know, what do you need to have to keep yourself hydrated while you're on that airplane trip? Because, you know, maybe you're going for a tryout somewhere or, you know, somewhere to perform or whatever. You know, what can you do in every situation to keep yourself at your best? And I am so glad I went over there and trained, man. They provided with me with a lot of useful knowledge that has helped me in my career. But yeah, it is a must. The rest and recovery thing is an absolute must. You know, because like we said earlier, you know, when you're working out, when you're training, when you're practicing, you are tearing your body apart. You're tearing your muscle fibers, and you know, in order for them to rebuild back bigger, stronger, and more efficient than they were before, you have to take the time out to let them recover, you know, so you will be at your maximum. But yeah, man, you know, rest and recovery is a must.
So, Billy, let's talk now. We've talked about strength training. We've talked about the importance of the academics. We've talked about your high school, your college. Now you're done. Congratulations, graduation. Now your next step.
Right.
Now you're going to get a paycheck for playing football.
Right.
I can't imagine what that is like. What is that like? What is that next step like?
Man. Well, just like going from high school to college, it is next level. Everything is turned up a notch or two, like a few notches, you know what I'm saying? Whether it be the playing level, the guys you were playing against is up, you know, several notches. The talent that you're playing against up several notches. The pressure that you have from your coaches, from your owners of the team, and so on and so forth. You are now on a professional level, and you now have a job to do. You know, and if you don't do your job as they see fit, then they're very quick to let you go and make you unemployed and bring the next guy up in.
And very quick to drive that point home, too.
Absolutely.
You are simply a number. Yep. And if your numbers don't jive with the bottom line, they find somebody whose numbers do.
Right.
I think people lose the whole it's a job thing. I think people think, oh man, he's playing pro football. He's got this great life, big cars, fancy cars, big planes, beautiful women, you know, doors opening at every nice restaurant in town. It's not like that, is it? I mean, you've got to work to sustain that lifestyle of being quote unquote pro athlete.
Right.
It's not just given to you.
Right.
You know, and I think that people look at it and go, well, you know, he's playing, you know, in the AFL, man. He's with the Jacksonville Sharks. Everybody heard of them. Everybody knows who they are. I mean, it's this big team. But as quickly as that light comes on, it goes off. And then you got to go, man, what am I doing now? And if football is all you know, and football is all you've prepared for, what do you do next? Because luckily you were smart enough to go and put academics number one, football, okay, 1.5, you know, but you know what I'm talking about, in that you were level-headed enough when you needed to be to get something to fall back on. Now, does that mean it's easy? Well, we all know it's not easy. You got to get a break. You got to find the break. You got to do what you got to do. But for you bounced around the arena leagues for a while. And what was it, you know, what kind of challenge was it? Because, you know, in some cases you went from the elite in the actual arena football to the indoor football, American Football League. You know, how do those vary in what you experience in the financial end of it? Because sometimes you got to get another job. You know, sometimes football doesn't pay the rent.
Right.
And how hard is that to still chase that dream, knowing that, you know, now and basically this is the minor leagues? Because in reality, you know, you're getting a $500 game check.
Right.
You know, and people don't. Maybe a little more here and there, but you know what I'm talking about.
Right,
you know.
right. Yeah, man, it again is a test
of your manhood.
Just like injuries and whatever challenges, man, it is really a test of your manhood, your fortitude, so on and so forth, man. It's
let me put it. How many times did you pick the phone up and say, "Man, Dad, I need your wisdom." You know, I'm really feeling it now. I know you've had to have that conversation with him. By the way, that's the Roy Firestone question.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, that's the one where you're supposed to dig deep and the little tear runs down. You've seen the Roy Firestone show, right? You got to have one of those when you talk to an athlete.
Man, it has been very challenging, you know, not getting an NFL level like paycheck, you know what I'm saying, where it's, you know, everything is kind of set, even though you have to work for it. And you know, the crazy thing about it is, you know, playing in the Arena League, you are putting your body through just as much, if not more, really, pain, suffering, damage, training, you know, this, that, and the other, as, you know, NFL players do.
Just for a fraction of the compensation.
Right.
Yeah, and that's the one thing me and you talked about. I don't think people realize how rough, how violent arena football is versus a 100-yard field, 50 yards wide or 40 yards wide. When you take that and compress it to 50 yards by, was it 20, 25 yards?
Maybe, or 30 or something like that.
You make the nets live. So now you're returning a ball with your back to the oncoming Buffaloes as they charge down. I don't think people realize, you know, they got padding on the wall. Yeah, what was the padding? 6 inches?
Barely.
You feel that board. You know. And I don't think people realize that you're basically playing hockey with a football.
Absolutely.
It is
that is one of the best analogies I've ever heard. But that is exactly what it is. Yes.
It is fast paced. It is guys going 100 miles an hour, full contact, and when you hear the clinks in arena ball, that's every play. That's not 1 in 10. In the NFL, you get good tackles, but you get hits. Maybe 1 out of 10, 1 out of 20 is that hit that everybody goes ooh. Right. But in arena ball, every hit,
every play
is a ooh.
Right.
Because there's no room for error. There's no room. You don't have the ability to go 10 yards to the outside and get some space between you and that defender.
And run out of bounds.
Right. Yeah, because there is no out of bounds.
There is no out of bounds.
Right. The out of bounds is when they throw you in the stands.
Right.
And I don't think people understand that. And it takes a different mindset to run out there and know tonight could be the night. You know, tonight could be the night. I mean, if you have ESPN at all and you watch AFL football, you know, because you see it every night, somebody doesn't get up from a hit. Every night, somebody lays on that turf and doesn't get up. And the unfortunate thing in AFL is the game goes on. Your career may not, but the game goes on.
Right.
And you have to be a beast to be able to accept that and prepare for that and to go for that. You know, and I know in your case, you know, you sit every day waiting on results, you know, and wanting to know, hey, am I going to have an opportunity to go CFL? Am I going to have an opportunity to go play in, God, I wish Europe League was still around, you know. But reality has to set in at some point, and you go, man, now I really got to put everything I've learned, everything I've prepared for, to work for me. Because if not, you can go crazy, you know. It's a bad place. Look at how many pro athletes lose everything when it's done because they didn't prepare. Right. They didn't take advantage of. I didn't go to school to be educated. I went to school to play football.
Yep.
And in your case, you have the opportunity to move forward. You have that degree. You have that education. You have the opportunity coming up to meet people in higher places that will utilize that education. But have you sat down and just thought, what if I get the news that nobody wants to get? Have you started preparing mentally for that phone call? Because, you know, reality is it could come for you, you know. And as much as we all pray for you and we want everything to work out good, and I would love to see you playing tomorrow, you know, but reality is you've played football your whole life. And tomorrow, it may have to be something else. As a man, because you always say you got to man up. At what point does it come to the realization that this is where my training comes in, my upbringing comes in, and my education comes in? At what point do you just say, this is what's next, and this is where I got to go? Because I can't imagine sitting in your shoes waiting for that phone call.
Right. I would say the smart route to go about that is, before it actually gets to that point, you should start investing into other things, you know. Mm-hmm. We talked about with your team and all that, y'all's motto.
Right, prepare today for tomorrow.
Right, you know. And preparation is the key to success, you know, in whatever avenue, whether it be sports, whether it be, you know, planning your future, you know, planning for things for your family in the future, you know, whatever. You know, preparation is the key to success. So, in saying that, you know, a lot of pro athletes, you'll see them getting, you know, while they're still playing, will start, you know, doing some sports commentating or whatever on ESPN. You'll see them, and, you know, they'll still be playing, but at the same time, on their side, on the side,
right,
they're doing sports commentating,
doing a little analysis.
They're preparing themselves to
for life after football,
right?
Which a lot of athletes used to not do,
right?
And if you look at the old timers, the Lyle Alzados, the Ray Guys, the Kenny Stablers, the guys who really just played football.
Right.
And, you know, Jim McMahon comes to mind. great quarterback of his time, didn't prepare for nothing and fell into drugs and alcohol and things like that, and just ruined his life. And you know, I'm real proud to see young men like yourself who have thought, one day this ends, and I need to have a plan.
Right.
And whether your plan is through sports broadcasting or sociology, you know, you have a plan. You have a path that you can go and you can attack. And you know, it's great to see young men like yourself who come through and prepare for that, because you know, back in the day, a lot of it didn't happen.
Right.
You know.
Oh, it still doesn't happen today. A lot of
Good
guys
enough.
still get, you know, wrapped up in. And I can't say I wasn't one of those guys at times, you know. With football or whatever sport is your focus, that is your focus, you know. And, you know, sometimes it's hard to think about, okay, what am I going to do afterwards, you know?
Right.
And a lot of people on the outside think, well, no, that's dumb. You know, of course you should do this. And, yeah, of course you should. But, you know, for a lot of, when you've done that for the majority of your life and that is your reality and that is who you are.
You become comfortable in it.
Right. That is who you are. That's
right.
all you know.
Well, Billy, that's just like this here, our 8730 Sports Media Network. This didn't come by accident. This came because I had to get back on the field somehow.
Right.
I had to be out there. Wasn't that I wanted to be out there.
Right.
I needed to be out there. And when my days were done, when I got so big that I couldn't move up and down the sidelines and I couldn't do my sports photography and I couldn't sell them anymore, and I got to the point where I couldn't move, I had to come up with something.
Right.
And we came up with this. Now, this is 15 years old. We celebrate 15 years this year. We went from used equipment to nice equipment.
Right.
You know, we went from not being able to stay on the air to do an hour show to broadcasting 12 hours a day, 5 days a week, 4 days a week.
Right.
We've learned to produce shows. We've learned to make shows. We've learned to produce football. But it wasn't because we planned for it. It was because it was out of necessity.
Mm-hmm.
Because not being football was worse for me than anything else I could have done.
Yeah, and you know that.
And that's why I asked you that question.
Yeah, it's a big struggle. It really is, and it's one that is seldomly talked about. You know, and you know, I want to make this comparison. I hate to. Well, I'm not even gonna go there. But honestly, when you've been doing this your whole life, pretty much, and this becomes your identity.
Right.
You hear of a lot of players, you know, when it comes to that time and it's time for you to, you know, you're not able to play anymore, you know. A lot of them go and try to lead a normal life and
can't do it.
They can't because there's a void there. And it's hard to fill that void.
Well, especially because the void is not just playing football. The void is everything that goes with football.
Yeah, that came with it.
The camaraderie of the guys in the locker room. I don't think, unless you've been there, I don't think you understand how you depend on that camaraderie.
Right, that's your family.
That relationship with those men.
Right.
You're right. It's your family. You go to battle with those guys every single week. And that's taken away. The practice schedules, the demand on your time. All of a sudden, you have time.
Yeah, too much. Too much.
And what's my grandmother used to always tell me, an idle mind is the devil's workshop. Mm-hmm. Well, if you've got time, your mind is idle.
Right.
And then you start to dabble into things that you shouldn't be dabbling into. Right. I'll tell you, one of the men I admire the most for how he left the game is Barry Sanders. Barry Sanders said, I did what I'm going to do. I've reached what I can reach. I can walk. I can sit. I can sleep. I can spend time with my kids. It's time to quit.
Right.
He walked away a legend. And for me, the legend isn't what he did on the field. The legend is that he was smart enough to know when to say, I'm done.
Right.
And was able to prepare his mind mentally to disappear. Because Barry Sanders, when he left, he disappeared.
Right.
You didn't hear about him. You didn't see him. Now here just lately, thanks to ESPN Series 30 on 30, you're getting to see more of him. And I'm going to tell you the other guy who did it very, very the right way is Mr. Bo Jackson. He got hurt, but when he left gracefully. You know, he tried to do baseball, came back, realized he couldn't do it, he walked away. Yeah. And now he lives a very content life. He's off to bigger and better things. But we're going to get off to bigger and better things. We're going to invite Billy back. You're going to be here a little while, rehabbing and getting ready to cross whatever path is next in your venture. Right. We're gonna invite Billy to join us on our broadcast team to do some high school football, and we're going to invite him to sit in on the regular basis on some of our shows. And I'm going to try to convince Mr. Harrison here to take over the NFL show and have him come in and co-host Inside the Huddle with me, and go from there. And hopefully he'll be gracious enough to donate his time and come in and get some on mic experience. But anyhow, Billy, it's we've run over 18 minutes, my friend, and we got to wrap this show up. But I thank you so very much for coming on today.
Well, I appreciate you having me, man.
And with that, we want to remind everybody, new this week, Pond Plus, new sponsor. Go see them. 129 North, New Warrington Road, Pensacola, Florida. Guys, if you end up buying them, we all get in them. We all get in them these days. Just take something down there of value, and they will make you a deal. The other thing you want me to let you know is, if you've cracked that smartphone screen and you've torn that thing up and you don't want to face that $200 to repair it or $300 to repair it, give them a call. Go down and see them. Let them look at it. They may be able to save you some money. And guys, you've listened to me for 15 years. You know I'm all about saving a nickel. So anyhow, that's Pond Plus, 129 North New Warrington Road, Pensacola, Florida. Also, Trade and Save for all you big gamers. The new Madden's coming out. Got to go down and get your copy. Reserve your copy of the new Madden. Or if you're like me, you don't want to pay $59 for the new one. Hey, the rosters aren't changed that much. Grab last year's for $22. Wear it out for a while, and then go trade it and save some money. Trade and Save, 5000 Mobile Highway. You can't miss them. They're right in between O'Reilly's Auto Parts and Channel 3 News over there. Also, Myrtle Grove United Methodist Men. Guys, they do, once a month, they do the Methodist Men Fish Fry. Billy, let me tell you. Oh, God, let me tell you about the fish fry. You look like you like fish.
I do.
Billy, they get this white fish. Now, I don't know where they get it from, but it is the best fish I've ever eaten in my life.
Yeah.
They double batter it. They fry it light. Put it on there with some homemade jalapeno hush puppies. some barbecue baked beans. And they set it at $7.
$7, huh?
$7. And all the money goes to the Myrtle Grove Methodist Men. They use it for outreach programs in the community. Guys, they have one every month. Go to Myrtle Grove Methodist Church. Join us at service. Join me Sunday at service. I'll be at the 8 o'clock service. We'll be streaming it live. And talk to Kevin and some of those guys and say, hey, I want some fish fry tickets. $7, guys. And I promise you, it's the best fish you'll ever eat. Anyhow, my friend, with that, we got to get the heck out of here. And I want to invite everybody, Cubs, Braves, today, 3 o'clock. Cheer the Cubbies on as they continue to try to make the march to October Magic. And we'll see y'all next week.
We're taking the afternoon off. It's a beautiful day for a ball game. For a ball game today. The fans are out to get a ticket or two. From Walla Walla, Washington to California.
cheer and boo and raise a hullabaloo at the ball game today. Batter off, strike one. Hey, the game has just begun and the home team's on to win. Nice swing, strike two. And the pitch is Mitzi do. Genius fastball, pop right in. This is it. Strike three. Fans are tearing up the chairs, but what the heck? Who cares? It's a beautiful day for a ball game, today. If you and I are out of dollars and cents, we can always share a little hope in the fence. It's a beautiful day for the ladies, so throw all your dishes away. We're gonna cheer and boo and raise a hullabaloo.